Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. I want to thank you so much for coming to our presentation to learn about
Suzanne.
what. Oh, got it. Want to welcome you and thank you for coming to our presentation. And those that are watching the recording, please reach out to me if you have any questions that aren't answered during the presentation. And those of you that are here live, we should have you all muted by this time, but if you have a keyboard, you can just hold down your space bar and ask me a question. Feel free to interact with me. I don't want this to be a one-sided presentation. So first, let me introduce myself. I'm Suzanne Clausen. I own the CruiseOne franchise in Show Low, Arizona, along with my husband. And here's a little timeline of our business. We opened our business in 2012, so this is our 10th year in business. In 2019, our organization gave me the Opal Award, which was for outstanding community service and sales leadership. And then we kind of had a downturn in 20 and 21. So I actually used that time to make it a positive. I earned my Master Cruise Counselor from our trade association, Cruise Line International Association. And in 2022, I am in the top 2% of CruiseOne and Dream Vacations franchises nationwide. We have about 1,600 franchises across the country, and my business is like number 32 out of those. My business model is very, very customer focused. I strive to provide exceptional customer service. I'm also an Avalon Waterways specialist. And I'm also certified in a couple of their other brands. They are a division of Globus. So if you've heard of Globus Tours or Cosmos, which is their budget friendly, and Monograms, which is going to have a rebranding pretty soon, but that's their independent travel. What am I trying to say? The independent travel side of the business that they do. Quality partners equals a quality experience. So when I look for a supplier that I want to partner with for my group cruises and where I want it to be an exceptional experience, I look for a company like Avalon Waterways. They have intimate, innovative ships, years of experience doing Europe, and they really provide a really, really superior quality product. I also partner with the folks at Ascension Cellars. They are our Paso Robles winery. And in my opinion, they make some of the best wine in California. And working with high quality partners like these, make sure that I'm delivering a quality experience to you, my guests, and that you'll keep coming back to me again and again. So let's talk a little bit about this wine lovers cruise to Burgundy and Provence. So a river cruise is one of the best ways to travel through Europe. You unpack only once. You don't have to haul your suitcase, and every day you wake up in a wonderful new port. For those of you who have done ocean cruising, kind of the difference and the similarities, both offer a very upscale luxury vacation. You have a variety of travel experiences. You can be active to laid back. You can enjoy history and culture. But the difference that a river cruise offers is that you have this continually changing landscape through which you are passing on the river. You cruise for shorter stretches of time, so it means you have really more time to interact with your destination. Your excursions and your onshore activities, as well as many of the onboard activities, are included in the price of the cruise. You dock right in the heart of these historic cities. It's there. I mean, you get off the ship and you're right downtown, which is wonderful. And you're traveling with 150 on an Avalon ship to 198 on the leading competitor. So much fewer guests, a lot more intimate experience.
There may be comfort in the usual, but true discovery and remarkable experiences are the rewards for the curious. They are the gifts that reside beyond the ordinary. Welcome aboard Avalon. Smaller ships, bigger experiences, fewer people, more of everything, right at your fingertips. And you wake up in the best staterooms in the business, to a new port every day, right in the heart of great cities, with nothing but possibilities ahead. Driven by out-of-the-box thinking and a relentless pursuit of better, Avalon heard the siren song to elevate cruising and they have. So if you believe that life is worth living, not looking, memories are worth making, that better stories need better settings, and that we could all use a little different, you're ready for an Avalon cruise. Cruising Elevated.
So that just gives you a little taste of what the Avalon experience is going to be like. I'm going to go through the cruise itinerary, and one of the things I want you to notice is that included in your cruise, and specifically in this wine lovers cruise, are a lot of different experiences that are included in the price. They're excursions or maybe wine tasting experiences. And the classic tours that you're going to have on Avalon are going to be the highlights of the city. Discovery tours are usually something like food and wine tasting. And then active is usually either going to be hiking or bicycling. So kind of look for those things as I'm going through the presentation, because that's what's so unique about Avalon, is that you have a choice in many of the ports of 2 or 3 different experiences in that port to suit your lifestyle. Let's kind of go through the cruise.
Sometimes you need more than one, depending on how long you're in that port.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like in the morning, you can do the walking guided tour. And then in the afternoon, the fitness host will have a hike up to the high point in the town. And you can do one in the morning, have lunch, and then go do the hike in the afternoon. That's really nice. It's really nice. So let's kind of go through the cruise. It starts in Saint Jean de Losne. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I speak French with a horrible Texas accent. I never had any French lessons. So you start there in that part of Burgundy, and then you make your way down to Port St. Louis in Provence. Now, what is an Avalon wine lovers cruise? So Avalon will have a master of wine along on the cruise, and he or she will host tasting experiences. Now, this particular picture is from our Danube cruise, which was not even a wine lovers cruise, but we went through this wonderful wine valley along the river. And that afternoon, one of the local winemakers came on the ship, set up his wine, hosted a free tasting. And of course, the idea was that maybe some people would buy some, but that was included for free. And it wasn't even a wine lovers cruise. We're going to have some actual planned experiences that are already laid out in the itinerary that'll be food and wine pairing opportunities. So we will also have, in addition to the winemaker host sponsored by Avalon, we are partnering with our friends at Ascension Cellars. They're an award-winning Paso Robles winery. And they have been doing this wonderful wine education program since the beginning of the pandemic. They called it Sunday Sipping. You go on Zoom, they send out a notice a week or two ahead of time so you can buy the wines that they're going to be talking about. And Lisa researches and talks about the wine, and she has a wonderful palate when it comes to describing wine. I just, I drink wine and I go, oh, that tastes good. But Lisa has a really good way of explaining the different things that you're looking for in the wine and the different characteristics. And we very much enjoyed their wine education program for the last 2 years. And as a matter of fact, yesterday we went to one of their webinars, and it was on Italian whites. That was very interesting. Learned about the different regions. So Lisa and Dave will be on board to kind of provide additional guidance. And then we're going to have some private events just for the people in our group. Maybe we all go into town and we buy a couple different types of wine, or Steve and Dave and Lisa and I buy 5 or 6 types of wine from that town. And then that afternoon, everybody in our group gets to try a little glass of each one, or a little taste of each one. So it's going to make it an even more rich experience to have. To have like our own, like a smaller group where we can even do more personalized tasting than what's offered shipwide. So I want to talk about the itinerary, and I have the pre-cruise extension on here because it really makes it logistically a little bit easier to do. Flying into Paris is probably going to be one connection, or nonstop, depending on where you're flying from, which is a lot easier than trying to go to Lyon, which is where you board the ship from if you don't fly to Paris. If you book the 2-day Paris extension, it includes 2 nights hotel in Paris, a half-day guided sightseeing tour of Paris, free time that afternoon, and then the next day, it's a high-speed train to Dijon, and from there, we'll tour Beaune's famous Hotel du, oh, I can't even say it. My French is terrible. It's a charity hospital, and it has this wonderful tiled roof, and it's now a museum that kind of shows the history of the hospital and all the different people that it took care of throughout the ages. And then you transfer to the ship. That extension is $8.99 per person. It really is a good value when you think about how much a hotel would cost in Paris. And this is I believe it's a 4-star hotel in Paris that they put us in. And then the high-speed train and the transfers, it's a really good value. But if you don't want to do that, you can fly into Lyon and then take a transfer to, now let's see how my French is. Saint-Jean-de-Losne. Does that sound right? I don't know. My French is terrible. But you'll have a welcome aboard reception, and then we'll take an overnight cruise once we embark on the ship to Mekong. That day we'll have some scenic cruising during the day, and then we'll have a lecture on board from the master of wine that is on board the ship. And then there is an opportunity, and this is an included tour. It is an excursion. They'll take us to a Chardonnay winery, and we'll get to go to visit the cellar and do some wine tasting. Very nice day in Mekong. Next day is going to be one of 2 days in Lyon. So if you fly into Lyon, then you get on the cruise ship, then you come back. Beautiful, beautiful city. This is actually considered the gastronomic capital of France. It's surprising because you would think that it would be Paris, but Lyon is actually more known for its cuisine than Paris is. So there's opportunity to do several different things. If you'll notice, there is an active tour option where you can take a bike with your adventure host. There's a wine and cheese tasting on board the ship, but there's also a classic tour where you're going to do a guided sightseeing tour of the town and see some of the famous architecture and buildings. And then back on board the ship, I think this is going to be really interesting. They will have a guest lecture that will tell us about World War II and the French Resistance. So really, really an enriching experience. Then we have our next day in Lyon. Trying to go to the next slide. There we go. So one of the discovery options is a culinary walk, which sounds very interesting. You'll go and get to try different foods from different restaurants that are part of the culinary walk. You can also go to Beaujolais. Now, this particular time of year is between the harvest and the release of Beaujolais. So maybe they would have a barrel tasting for us to do to taste the new release before it comes out. And then in the evening, again, we'll have another onboard wine experience. That'll be a food and wine pairing dinner hosted by the master of wine. The next day is in Tournon. And in the morning, you can go for a hike in the vineyards. And in the or also in the morning, so you could do one or the other. You could do the classic guided walking tour, which is going to include the main highlights of the city. Then we do scenic cruising that day and head down in the afternoon to Viviers. And this particular town in France is known for this Romanesque style cathedral that's there. So it'll be a chance to see this historic building, enjoy this beautiful picturesque town. Going to be a lovely, lovely part of France. Next, we go to Avignon, and I always have seen this picture of this fortress with this like half bridge and wondered where it was. Well, it is Avignon, France. And your classic tour, again, is going to be a chance to see that fortress. But your discovery tour, which is included, is a trip to the famed Chateau de Neuf-de-Pape area and to one of the wineries there.
Fantastic wine.
Yes. Next, we'll go to Arles. So Arles dates back to the Roman period. There's actually some Roman ruins there that you can see. There is a painting workshop, and I went through the itinerary. This is not listed as an additional charge. Usually things that have any kind of of what am I trying to say? Goods that would be used up during the tour. There sometimes is an extra charge. It doesn't look like it is, but I would want to double confirm that. But from what I can tell, you can take this painting class and learn to paint like Van Gogh, which I don't think even if I had a class I could do. I'm terrible. I did one of those wine painting nights, and I came home with my painting, and Steve and Savannah said, "Oh, Mom, that's not as bad as we thought it would be." It was not very good. So the next day you disembark in Port St. Louis. You will take your flights home from Marseille. That's the nearest airport. I believe it's about 35 minutes from Port St. Louis to Marseille. But if you want to spend a little bit more time on the cruise, we recommend that you do the 2-night extension in Nice. Beautiful oceanfront beachside resort. A pretty good value there at the $659 per person. If it's going to include your 2 nights, your transfers, all those kinds of things. So now let's talk about, we talked a little bit about the excursions that are offered on this cruise as one of the things that makes Avalon different from, say, the leading competitor. We got a little highlight in that video with that man. We're going to talk about the ship and what makes the Avalon ships so special. So there's a picture of our ship that we're going to be sailing on, the Poetry 2. And I like this graphic because there are things that are alike, but they're different. So when you look at a river cruise ship, a European river cruise ship, they all tend to look alike from the outside because they have to go through the same locks. They have to go under the same bridges. So they have a very similar design, and almost all of them in a particular river system are exactly the same size because they are built to the maximum size of the locks on that river system. And when you look at the inclusions, they're like, okay, we have wine with meals, we have Wi-Fi, we have bicycles, we have activities, and we have guided excursions. They tend to look alike. But then when you kind of peel the layers of the onion back, you start to see what makes Avalon really different from, we'll say, the leading brand. So the first thing is the views that you have in your room. And I have a little bit of a video now for the Sweet Ships of Avalon. And how do I get it to start? There we go.
The Sweet Ships of Avalon, designed from the ground up with an attention to detail river cruising has never seen before. There's nothing quite like river cruising no matter who you cruise with, but there are some pretty big differences between companies, starting with how they look at staterooms. And our one-of-a-kind panorama suite is proof of our innovation, our imagination, and our desire to create a smarter use of space. To give you some perspective of how much better our staterooms are, we're comparing them to the average river cruise cabin. Here's the average window, roughly 7 feet wide with an opening under 4 feet. Here's our window, nearly 11 feet wide, floor to ceiling, wall to wall. And when it opens, it really opens, wide enough to let the outside in, because the opening is a full 7 feet, almost twice the size of the others. It's the largest standard window in river cruising. Now, let's take a look at the bed of the average cabin. It faces the wall, not much to look at there. We had a much better idea. What if we angled the wall and turned the bed? That little change gives you the perfect perspective of the amazing views out your window. We then turned our attention to the balcony. Here's the average river cruise balcony. Seems like a nice idea, but as far as we can tell, there's not a lot of room for people to enjoy the views out there. And they had to take space from your stateroom to create that small deck space outside. So here's our better idea. Reclaim that space, push the window out, add a spacious dining and seating area for up to 6 adults, combine it with the largest sliding glass door in the business, and voila, you have an open-air balcony, the only one of its kind in river cruising, and you can enjoy it day and night, no matter the weather. Plus, you'll enjoy a lot more livable space, a full 200 square feet. We gave our room an attention to detail unmatched in the industry. We offer Comfort Collection beds, plenty of easily accessible storage, and we even added sound dampening insulation in our walls to make it less likely you'll hear your neighbors or they'll hear you. And we didn't stop with the room. We turned that same attention to detail to the bathroom. We took a look at the bathroom of the average ship and we knew we could do better. By angling the wall, we opened up more space in the bathroom. Then we took our newfound space and we made it luxurious. We have a large tile shower with glass doors, marble countertops, premium fixtures, L'Occitane bath amenities, and shelves to store all your necessities. And the best part is that there aren't just a couple of these staterooms on our ships, reserved for those who want to pay more. 80% of the staterooms on our suite ships are panorama suites. And once you leave your suite, you're likely to find fewer people on our suite ships. Because with our bigger staterooms, there is less capacity for passengers, which means more space everywhere you go. As you can see, more has gone into the amazing panorama suites, so you can get so much more out of them. We invite you to compare, and you'll see there's no comparison.
I love that little video.
It's nice.
Now, let's look and compare the layout of the Avalon Panorama Suite with the leading competitor. Now, this leading competitor says that their room is 200 square feet. Well, they are counting this almost unusable balcony space in that 200 square feet. Whereas in Avalon, you're really getting to use all your space. And look at the difference in the bath. That's how tiny they are on the leading brand's cruise ship. And the full-size bath, Steve's a big guy. He's about 6 feet tall, about 250 pounds. And he said that this is one of the nicest baths he's had on any cruise ship we've ever been on, river or ocean. We really do love that bathroom. The other thing to notice is that, look, if you have the French balcony on the leading competitor ship, it's 150 square feet. So it's a full 50 square feet smaller than what you get on Avalon. The leading competitor carries about 198 people on their standard river ships, and Avalon carries 158 on their standard river ships. So big difference, about 30% difference in the number of passengers on board. This is a picture of our suite on our Danube cruise that we did in fall of 2021. You can see, we didn't have the window all the way open at that point, but it does open all the way. It has a full-size desk, this nice love seat, very, very nice, nice configuration. I also took pictures of all the storage. So each side of the bed has a little table with a desk and drawers, and there's storage underneath there. A pretty big closet. We got everything that we needed into both sides of the closet. And then I also took a picture of one of the fixed window cabins. So these are 172 square feet. That is still bigger than the French balcony cabin on that leading competitor. The bed does not face out because you just have this little fixed window there. You don't have the panoramic balcony. But this is a good option for solo travelers or people who are on a little bit tighter budget. And the bathroom's a little bit smaller, but again, for the solo traveler, it's perfect size. So just wanted to let you know that that option is out there if you need to be a little bit more budget friendly on this cruise. Here's another picture of that full-size bath. Love the full-size bath. Very, very, very nice. This is the top deck of one of their ships. Notice that it is carpeted with this indoor-outdoor carpet kind of stuff. I don't really know exactly how to call it, but you can see it here. It's thick and kind of cushiony. So if you have a room that is on the top deck, which should be deck number 3, and this would be deck number 4, you're not going to, even if there's people not walking around there at night, but even if they were, it does not come through down to your room. The rooms are very soundproof. On the back of the ship, because they have fewer people, they are able to have a second observation lounge. And this is where we might do some of our wine tasting just with our smaller group. You can't see, but over here and over here, there's big panoramic windows. So you can see out there. Sometimes the best view is out the back of the ship. This is the panorama lounge that's on the front of the ship. This is where you're going to gather for the evening, for your lectures, to do your wine tasting. Lots of different activities take place in this room. And they even can serve dinner in this room. So let's look at the next slide, which is the gym. They even have a small gymnasium. There's Steve actually working out. We're so proud of him. And if you look over here, this is the main dining room. This will accommodate everyone on the ship all at once. So they have one kind of open seating time. But in the Panorama Bistro, they have snacks in the afternoon and they have tables here. So if you want to have a little bit more of a casual dining experience one night, you can eat up there. It's the same menu. It's just maybe not, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just a little bit more casual. And you have a little bit more of a view because you have the panoramic windows up front.
Swimming selection of food.
Menu
too.
is
That's not
limited,
the
I'm
entire-
sure.
Did you, Steve, did you have a question, Steve?
I was thinking a bistro up in the panorama for dinner is a little smaller selection of the food that you get down in the main restaurant.
Yeah, it's similar menu, but a little bit, not everything is on the menu. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Now the Avalon difference. Now we talked about this a little bit earlier, the classic, the discovery, and the active excursions. So I'm going to give you examples of what we did on this Danube cruise, because I think it applies to our wine cruise, even though it's a different itinerary. So for example, our classic tour of Budapest, we got a panoramic tour of the town. We saw a lot of the main monuments, and then our stop was here up on the hillside. That's the Buda Hill, and it looks down on the past, and we could see the beautiful, beautiful Parliament building here. There was an option to go in a cathedral up there. There was a really beautiful part of town. You get snacks and do some souvenir shopping. So that was our morning. And then we went back to the ship, had lunch, and then in the afternoon, oops, I clicked that too many times. Yep, let me go back. In the afternoon, we did wine tasting. Now, this particular cruise was not a wine lovers cruise, so the wine tasting was at an extra charge, whereas on our wine lovers cruise, they are including those types of experiences on in the price of the cruise. And this was a wonderful chance to go out into the countryside and see more of Hungary than just Budapest. So an example of our active excursion was when we were in Dürnstein. We enjoyed a guided hike up to the castle where Richard the Lionhearted was imprisoned. And our guide was a local guide. She told us the story, and we learned all about how he was in prison there and about how his loyal servant found him and mounted a rescue. Anyway, that's an example of an active tour. And it was certainly one of the things you're rewarded with on those active ones, because it usually involves walking up a hill, is the beautiful views. I mean, you can see those views behind Steve and I. It was absolutely incredible. So let's talk about dining. So we talked a little bit in that one picture where I had pictures of the ship, but the main dining room, guests are seated anytime between 7 and 8:30, and that really varies depending on the itinerary. And quite frankly, most people go down to dinner as soon as it opens up. They do have capacity to seat everybody in there at one time, so it's just kind of one large dining time. You just don't have to be there right when it opens. They have the Sky Grill, which they open on days where the weather is good, and you can have dinner up on top of lunch on top of the ship. They also offer room service, and again, that less formal Panorama Bistro and Avalon Fresh options. So I love to talk about the Avalon Fresh because I enjoyed them so much. So what is Avalon Fresh? It is fresh, local, healthy ingredients. And the emphasis is really on having gourmet food that is also healthy. So these are the two brothers that kind of designed the menu. They own a restaurant in Vienna. It's an upscale vegetarian. Now, don't think that the whole menu is vegetarian. They just have these like 1 or 2 dishes a night that are probably vegetarian, and they're very good. Their whole philosophy is that you have fresh, local, healthy ingredients that are so delicious you don't even know that they're healthy. I took some pictures. So here's an example. Again, meat lovers, do not worry. There's plenty of meat, fowl, and fish choices. But this is locally raised beef, an Austrian specialty, including spätzle, and a Slovakian dumpling soup. Now, we're going to be in France, so of course, the regional specialties are going to be based on French food. But this is an example of what they did on this Danube cruise. They have this savory pumpkin strudel. We were leaving Vienna, they had Wiener Schnitzel. And then in Hungary, they had these lovely cabbage rolls. Lunch is usually a regional specialty. This you can see they had goulash when we were in Hungary. They had a carving station, sandwiches, salmon, French fries, a really good variety of food. And when we arrived in Bavaria, it was the last stop in our cruise. They did a full-on Bavarian lunch for us, and I didn't get a picture of it, but they had this display with all these pretzels and rolls, you know, those Bavarian rolls that you just love. And they had Bavarian beer. So they are very much into making the cruise an immersive experience in wherever it is you're traveling. So we will have the French version, and it will be the Burgundy and Provence regional specialties that we'll have at each of these special meals. So let's talk a little bit about the price. So this is our price per person based on double occupancy. There is, and they have a limited capacity. It's a little bit of a different discount, but they do have cabins that are priced for solo cruisers, and you don't pay the full single supplement to do that. So it makes it very affordable if you're traveling solo. It's still probably a little bit more affordable if you can get a roommate. And again, the beds, if you're traveling with a friend and not a partner, those beds can be split apart and made up into 2 beds, just like on a ocean cruise ship. Our amenities for our group include free prepaid gratuities. So you don't have to worry about gratuities for the crew. You get 2 drink vouchers. Now, beer and wine is included in all your meals, but if you want to have beer or wine outside of that and get it from the bar, you do need to pay for it, but it's very reasonably priced. Also, if you're in Burgundy and you buy a bottle of wine and you have it in your room, you can pour it in a glass in your room and go in the panorama lounge and drink it, and nobody is going to say anything. And as a matter of fact, if you're up top enjoying the scenery, you can open a bottle of wine that you bought in town and share it with your friends. And again, nobody's going to say anything to you. But we have 2 free drink vouchers per person as part of our group amenity. Steve and I will be on board as your travel host, so we'll be there to handle any issues or problems that might come up during the tour. We'll also have Dave and Lisa from Ascension Cellars on board to answer any of your questions about wine that you didn't have time to ask the master of wine. And then we'll also have those private tastings where maybe we just go up top and we all have a couple bottles of wine and we try some different wines from the areas that we've just visited. You can add the 2 nights pre-cruise to Paris and Beaune for $8.99 per person. And Steve and I are doing that. And we've never been to Paris, believe it or not. And I thought that would be a great chance to kind of dip our toe and see a little bit of Paris. And then if you wanted to add the 2-night tour of Nice, it's $6.59 per person. So additional information. This is the question I always get. What are the COVID protocols? So Avalon is currently requiring all guests to be vaccinated. I am expecting, this is just from hearsay in the industry as a whole, that the vaccination requirements could be loosened as early as early 2023. But that's not certain. But I just, right now, everybody on their cruise ships or even the Globus tours are vaccinated. And there's currently no pre-travel testing required to enter France if you're fully vaccinated. No tests to get on board the Avalon cruise. So that makes it very simple. And this part, in the middle of June, they lifted it. You don't have to take a test to come back to the US anymore. So you don't have to have that stress. Am I going to have an asymptomatic case of COVID and test positive, and then I have to stay in Europe for 10 more days? You don't have to worry about that. And currently, masks are not required on the ship or in France to visit public venues. Of course, if some kind of weird thing rears its ugly head, that they might put masks back into place. We had on our cruise that we did from Hungary to Germany, there were a couple places where we had to wear a KN95 mask to go inside, just a couple places, and a couple places where we had to show our Vax card to dine inside. But most of those restrictions in Europe have been completely lifted. We just got back from Norway, where there were no COVID restrictions at all, and the UK, where there was no COVID restrictions. So the world is kind of getting back to normal. if this particular voyage to Burgundy and Provence doesn't float your boat, Avalon has, wait, I want to go back, has cruises all over the world and all rivers. So this is just a map of their European cruises. In October of this year, we are doing a cruise that will go from Zagreb, which is somewhere around here, and we actually get on the ship in this town here, all the way down to the Black Sea. So that's one of the cruises we're doing in October of this year. This is our Burgundy and Provence cruise. They also offer cruises to the Galapagos. They do the Ganges River, the Peruvian Amazon, the Nile, and the Mekong River. So they have lots of different ways for you to see the world with Avalon Waterways. So we really want you to join us for this. It's going to be the cruise of a lifetime. It's going to be so beautiful, these two rivers, and the experience, the immersive experience of getting to try the wine and the food of France is going to be just absolutely fabulous. We have a special offer. If you book any Avalon Waterways cruise with us by July 31st, you will receive an additional $50 per person onboard credit just for attending this Zoom event. So it has to be a new booking. You know, you can't cancel and rebook if you're already booked. I think the people that already booked already got a different Zoom offer, but this is their current one that they're having. So that $50 onboard credit can go towards those little, you know, extra glass of wine or two that you're having in the main panorama lounge, the bar. Or if you wanted to do, I found one optional excursion on this cruise. There may be a couple more that the cruise director can put together for us. So you could use that to go towards that once you're on board the ship. And I'm Suzanne. I do luxury vacations, family vacations, group vacations. My goal is to provide vacation planning that's as attentive and personalized as the actual vacation itself. So I'm going to thank you for attending. And now I'd love to open it up for questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and that way I can see you. So let me go to stop share. And there's everyone. So are there any questions that anybody has?
Yeah. Of course, my question is going to be weather.
Okay.
Is it a rainy period, or is it, kind of cool and sunny, or do we know?
It can be either.
Okay.
It can vary from day to day. October is a
Okay.
really nice time because it's not hot and it's not tourist season. We got a little taste of the tourist season when we were in Venice a couple weeks ago, and it was extremely crowded and it was hot. And I was like, and then when we climbed up the Acropolis, it was hot. and we're like, okay, we need to do this some other time of year. We need to come here in the dead of winter is what we need to do. But that's a nice thing, is it's a little bit of the off season. So we could have a variety.
A light jacket is going to be enough.
Right.
The EVs may get a little cooler, but if
That's
when
okay.
When you do some of the hiking, you may want to take your jacket off. You'll get a little warmer, but those some little layers. But it will not be. It's pre-snow, so it won't be snow or anything like that this time.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a little further south than where we were on the Danube in October. The nice thing is that it should be a little warmer if we're riding up top, but I would definitely bring a scarf, gloves, and a hat, just because if you kind of insulate your neck and your head and you're sitting up top and the ship is moving, you get that wind chill. So definitely, you want to be a little bit more insulated when you're up there on the top of the ship doing your scenic cruising.
And do they find that the river pretty much remains stable? I mean, I've heard some river cruises where, you have to disembark and take a bus up to the next.
One of the good things, it can happen. It can happen. One of the nice things about Avalon is that they have one of the shallowest drafts in the business, which means that when the competitor can't go because their draft is 5 feet, Avalon's is 3 feet. And so they've got 2 feet. I'm just making up numbers, but they've got 2 feet more clearance. So occasionally that'll happen, and it can vary. Avalon is so experienced though. What they usually do if there's a part of the river that's impassable is you'll go off on the tour, you'll put
Mhm.
your luggage, and you come back from your tour, you're on a different ship that's further down the river, and all your stuff is back in your room. And I mean,
Okay.
it's not put away, but it's packed. But so it's called a ship swap. Avalon they're part of Globus, so they have been doing tours and vacations in Europe since like 1920. So they have a lot of experience with that. And the fact that their ships have a shallower draft allows them to go when other ships cannot move.
Okay, it's good to know.
Suzanne,
Yes.
the tours, the walking tours, what would you think of the average length of is it 2 miles or 1.5 miles, 3 miles?
You're talking about like you're just going to go see the highlights of the city, the classic tour, not the active tour. My 81-year-old mom and stepdad did the walking tours on our October cruise. So it was I remember, so they did the walking tour of Dürnstein, which is a small little town. They did the walking tour of Paso, which was a little bit bigger, and they did just fine on that. Tom did the hike up the big old mountain with us in Dürnstein. Trying to think, it's designed for mature people who are not necessarily, the
Yes.
most fit athletes, but that's why they also have those active excursions for people who want to have that little bit more of an active experience while they're on vacation. So it's a little of both.
Also, Suzanne, the general food options or presentation, would you say it's more local, or is it more like the foodie presentations?
It kind of depends, because I would say that the Avalon Fresh items are foodie presentations of vegetarian dishes. So that, the pumpkin strudel that they made was a vegetarian pumpkin. Obviously, grandma is probably not making vegetarian savory pumpkin strudel for dinner every night. But grandma would make the cabbage rolls, or she would make the goulash or the Wiener Schnitzel, so they have a little bit of both. I mean, the Wiener Schnitzel was certainly like what you would want to get in Vienna if you wanted to have typical mom and pop restaurant Wiener Schnitzel, just really, really delicious. Steve, can you add to that a little bit?
No, I think it's pretty much, they try to stay pretty local to it. And so it's kind of elevated. I mean, it's very, they have the presentation, wow, and on some of them, and the flavor is awesome, really good. So, I mean, I would say it's more good eating than it is, foodie, if that makes any sense. And
Yeah, and like the lunch that they have, like when they had the goulash and the potatoes. So some of it is home style and some of it's elevated. I'd say there's a nice mix. So whether you prefer, grandma's cooking or French laundry, there's something for everybody there.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Food, the rooms.
How many nights are we in Lyon?
We have one night in Lyon. So we overnight. So we get there in the morning one day, we overnight the next day, and then I think we leave and sail down the river the next evening.
Okay.
The river cruises have to have sort of a flexible schedule, because it depends on when they can get scheduled for the locks, and also as the river levels can vary, they may head out a little early to get to some place where they know that maybe tomorrow it might not be as good to pass. I mean, we experienced that. There was a lot of flexibility on our cruise. They're like, okay, would you rather go here? Or I mean, they even asked us, we kind of took a vote, and there was one excursion that nobody wanted to do. So we just skipped that port and went further along the river. So it is kind of a fluid thing because the rivers are fluid. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Mhm. Right. You got any questions?
I don't have any, no.
Okay.
Suzanne, how many cameras do we have going with us right now?
12? I
So
think
nice
it's
little
right at around 12.
Nice little group, and you know, it's free flowing. You can do as much or as little as you want with the group too, so.
And what's the availability of, now what does the P stand for? Is that the panoramic one?
The P is, so they're all panoramic. So
Oh,
the P is going to be on deck 3.
Okay.
And then the identical cabins in the A's and the B's are down on deck 2. There's more availability on deck 2 in terms of a good location than there is up on deck 3, because the ones on deck 2 are a little bit more forward. There's going to be the A cabins. The
Okay.
B's are a little bit more towards the back. Now, the rooms are sound insulated. They have the insulation in the walls. But the further back you go on the ship, you tend to be a little closer to the engine. They are insulated, so when you're in the room, you don't hear the noise nearly as much as, say, if you're in that panoramic room in the back, or you're just walking down the hall. So front is considered a little better on a river cruise ship, just for that reason. But there's really no bad rooms. And then there's a couple of the lower level ones, if you know anybody, or on a little bit tighter budget. So.
And they would be on the first.
They do have a few royal suites too, but we've already got them actually.
Yeah, we've booked.
Oh,
We've booked both royal suites. They're just a little bit bigger. They're just like 50% bigger. So, but yeah, we do have a couple of those those duck level, the ones with the fixed windows that are down on deck 1
Okay,
are
so
also
the
available.
fixed windows are on deck 1, which is D and E. Okay.
Yes, that's D and E. Yes, category
Okay,
D and E.
gotcha.
Do you want me to pull any of those slides back up? Does anybody want to see one of the
No.
slides? Okay.
Yeah, I wrote it all down. I just wanted just a little more clarification on where they were located. That's
So
good.
the extension at the end, is that in Nice where we would
Nice.
stay, Suzanne?
Yes, that's in Nice is the extension at the end.
You included tours in that or not?
I believe that there is, it's like the Paris extension. There's like one half-day tour. I would have to double check, but I believe it's a half-day tour and then time on your own.
Okay. All right.
Tom, you already booked, right?
Tom, you
You
already booked.
Yeah, I just about have to leave. I was about to add to the chat that I'll see you in Paris. So yeah, we can't wait. We're really looking forward to this cruise. The last one we did on the Danube was a fabulous experience.
Well, you're
You
going in
just tell
October.
us-
Tom?
Yeah, he's going October with us this year. Tom, do you have a second to just tell us what you enjoyed most about the Avalon cruise experience?
Well, having done a bunch of the big boats, it was really nice to be on a smaller one. The scenery was absolutely fabulous to just ride down the river and just be always looking at scenery. Was really nice. Comment about the meals. I guess I was going to say my experience in Avalon is what I would have expected in a nice restaurant in whatever city we were in. So there was always some local flavor to it, but it was always very good high-end food. So it was good mix. So.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
So as far as the dinners, there's more than one selection. It's not like a set meal you can
No,
order
no,
from.
There's a menu and you usually have 4 main courses from which to choose.
Okay.
Usually like a beef or pork, something a big animal, then usually a chicken dish and a fish dish, and then a vegetarian dish.
Vegetarian. Okay,
And
great.
the vegetarian, I had that several times, and I'm not vegetarian. It just sounded really good. And So, usually, and they will do special diets if you have any dietary needs. The only thing they can't do is guarantee 100% gluten-free because it's not a gluten-free kitchen. Now, they can bring you gluten-free bread and they can bring you stuff that's not prepared with gluten, but if people are super sensitive that they can't even have like a piece of dust of gluten, then they can't guarantee that. They also don't do, I think, kosher is unless it's a full charter and you have your own rabbi to do the kitchen, they can't do kosher. But
Right.
other than that, they can do accommodate almost any special dietary needs.
Okay. Did you want to
So-
ask about the drink package? If they have a drink package?
No.
Okay. Well, so just to let you know, they don't have a drink package.
Okay.
So you either do the you get your beer and wine with your meals, so that's included, and the pricing for the alcohol is so reasonably priced, and you can Cheryl got Kitty for the pricing for the alcohol is so reasonably priced, and you can have your. I mean, we're going to be in Burgundy. Just buy a bottle of wine and then
Right.
just, open it in your room, pour it in a glass, and you're good to go. They really do not make money on the alcohol sales like they would on like a Carnival or a Royal Caribbean
You think
cruise.
that notionally that the price is about like half of what you pay on an ocean cruise for a beer or for a glass of wine. It's what you'd expect to pay, locally, I guess, but. I think we did the 7-night cruise in October. I think our bar bill at the end of the cruise was like $150.
You'll know how I drink.
Than most, but they're really nice about it too. When just before you leave dinner, they bring back the wine, they fill your glass up, so you're taking a full glass with you from the restaurant and stuff. So I mean, it's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, and wonderful international crew. They have crew from all over the world, including like the Philippines and Europe. There was a pic on the very last night. We do like a crew appreciation where we wait for everybody, and our cruise director said, "Now Svetlana is our laundry lady, and she gets no respect. Please, when she comes out, please give her a big cheer because she's been keeping all the linens and everything clean." So she came out, she got a standing ovation. It was a lot of fun. And I think when we took that cruise in October, we only had 36 people on our cruise. It's because, and we had a partial crew. Now, all of the sailors, the engineering crew, that had to be a full crew, but we had a partial dining crew and a partial housekeeping crew just because they didn't need to have it fully crewed.
Right.
But I'm expecting by 2023, especially if the vaccination requirements get lifted, that this is going to be completely sold out. So, but it's only, I believe this ship is only 142 people. I mean, that's
Wow.
hardly anybody.
Yeah.
So down payment is due when?
The deposit is due within like 4 days of whenever I put a room on hold for you. It's $500. That is completely non-refundable because with 142 people, that's per cabin, 500 per cabin, because with 142 people on your ship, you can't afford to have 50% of the people cancel at the last minute. So that deposit is non-refundable. You can also cancel for any reason insurance through Avalon, which is nice. If you have an emergency, you cancel, you file a claim and you get cash back. If you have, your niece's wedding is scheduled now when the cruise and the cruise is already paid for, then you can use your cancel for any reason and get a voucher to use on a future cruise. Unlike their competitor, Avalon does not require you to be paid a full year in advance. Your final payment is going to be 90 days before the cruise, just like an ocean cruise and most travel products. So that's another big advantage of sailing with Avalon, is that they do not require that full payment a year in advance. I'm like, what is that about? Well, that company is expanding their fleet with your money. You're investing in that company when you do that.
So it would only be $500 deposit, and then 90 days before the cruise, you need to have all your funds there.
Yeah. And if you purchase your air through Avalon, they have a pretty good air program. It's another $300 deposit on your air. And again, that's non-refundable. And then you pay for the final payment of your air with at 90 days with the final payment.
Okay.
And you can purchase if you purchase your air through Avalon and you arrive and depart on the brochure dates, which would be, if say you did the Paris extension, you arrive in Paris, you have the 2 nights in Paris, and but if you come in a day early, that's not brochure date. But if you do that, they include their transfers from the airport to the hotel or the cruise ship if you have your air booked with them and you're on the brochure date. If you're coming in, maybe you want to spend 3 nights in Paris, you're going to do the first night on your own, not book that hotel through them, then I would have to help arrange a different kind of transfer. If you're flying into Lyon, it's expensive. I mean, we're talking like it's $145 to get a car from Lyon to Saint Jean de Lausanne. So we're like, you're going to take the public train. How are we going to get you there? So that's one of the other reasons that by the time you figure in that differential to take that transfer from Lyon, you might as well have just come to Paris for 2 days. I mean, why not?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, I think I've asked all my questions. Yeah.
I'm good.
And Suzanne, how do you
Yes.
watch, how do you replay this Zoom call? Just use the same link?
So Steve will send out an email to everyone who's registered, and it'll have a link to our cloud storage for the Zoom, for the recorded session.
Okay.
Email go out either tonight or first thing in the morning, hopefully tonight, but worst case tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we have to save it and then upload it, and that takes a little bit of time, but then Steve usually just goes and he can send off the email to everybody who registered for this. So it's going to be a fabulous cruise. I'm super excited. I mean, look at Steve. He's in, I think that's Lyon, isn't it, honey?
Yeah, Leon.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, and the nice thing about the river cruises is that you have those big panoramic doors, you can open them up. And I was surprised. I thought in October it might be a little cool. It wasn't. And because the wind doesn't really come in the room. And we would stand out there and look as we were going down the river. And you can't see it in this picture behind me, but on the wall, this wall over here, it's all mirrored. So I was actually sitting at my desk and I could see what was behind us in the mirror. And we went around this big bend and there was this huge castle up on this hill. And I was like, oh, and I could just see it in my mirror out the window. And it was fabulous. I mean, that's what I love about these big open windows. You see so much as you're driving down the river. It really makes your traveling time fabulous. Now, when you're parked, sometimes you really don't have a view out your window when you're parked like on the edge of the river or next to another ship. But when you're traveling, it really makes all the difference.
Okay. Sounds good.
I want to thank everybody for coming. Steve, have you stopped the recording yet? No, you're still recording. So go ahead and end the recording and then we'll just say our goodbyes to everyone. How'd we do? We did right about an hour. That's not too bad.